Hey, welcome to part two of week three. I'm not going to this is going to be another relatively short video because I still got a lot of you guys that are still working on things and trying to get stuff in. What I did kind of want to do though is I wanted to revisit last week's discussion thread on is everything knowable. Um, so I told you that I would come back and I would revisit some of these principal claims here and get into it a little bit deeper. Um, One of the things that I wanted to really kind of encourage you to think about is what's the difference between knowing and then understanding, or is there a difference between knowing and like understanding? Because somebody says you can never know how other people see color, and I think that I think this is a really beautiful idea because the only way that we have to talk about color is through language, and language is just a symbolic representation of an actual truth, right? Language itself is completely meaningless. Um, if I said, "Dozo yoroshiku onegaishimasu, watashi wa noname Andrew Sensei," uh, like that means nothing to you, well, unless you speak Japanese, right? But because the language itself doesn't have any inherent value, it's only your ability to associate an idea with it that has value. It's the idea that is the truth that is being represented. So when it comes to something like color, the only way that I have to represent the truth as I experience it is to use a word and to communicate that word to you. Because if I picked up, like if I said red, right? But I'm seeing red as blue, right? But you're seeing red as red, we would never have any way of knowing that we weren't talking about the same thing. This is why people are able to go colorblind for their entire lives and not even realize it, is because when they talk about a color, they're able to distinguish the color just as they normally would. They just don't have any way to contextualize that information in a way that resonates to any kind of truth, because their entire way of accessing and communicating any kind of understanding or knowledge of it is through symbolic representation, through language. So I thought this was really insightful, and it really gets us to probe a little bit deeper into, can we compartmentalize knowledge? Can we pull it apart a little bit and talk about this as like partial knowledge, where we think understanding might be total knowledge, or again getting into the idea from the video, which is those degrees of certainty, right? We also got into some interesting stuff here in the middle regarding religion and God, which is kind of interesting to me because, from my understanding theologically, which I'll admit is pretty limited to only like Zoroastrianism, uh, probably Judaism, um, Hindu, Buddhist, Taoist, Protestant and Catholic, Christian perspectives. My perspective of Islam is still evolving. It's something that I am trying to become more educated on, but I admit that I'm still relatively limited on. But from almost all of the religious perspectives that I can think of and that I'm familiar with, which is relatively reasonable. We haven't really thought of God as a knowable force ever since humanity kind of made the transition to monotheism. Back in the polytheistic days, where we believed in a wide array of God, the Zeuses and the Dionysus, and the Anubis and the Amun-Ras, and all of those. Whenever we had an array of gods, gods were much more like people, and they were multifaceted, and they were kind of amoral. They were neither good nor bad, right? And we considered them to be knowable. That, like, you could understand them and their motivation, so on and then so forth. But ever since we switched to monotheism and its wide menagerie of different belief systems, we well, I shouldn't say switch, because there are still plenty of polytheistic people in the world, so I don't want to disparage any belief system. Ever since the majority of faithful believers in the world switched to monotheistic belief systems, we God has been seen more as an unknowable entity. something that you can have an idea of but not really know. And that's how you get out of a lot of like theological tricky situations, like why did the 6 year old die of cancer? Well, it's all part of God's plan. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, God's plan is beyond you because God is unknowable. So then whenever we're then using an unknowable thing to describe how we know things, it seems like this kind of like paradoxical redundancy loop, um, that I would love for somebody to kind of go into a bit more depth on. Um, I I would love to know kind of what they mean by God or Scripture tells them what is knowable, and then get a bit better of a justification there, right? I'm not doubting that claim or trying to say that the claim is invalid. I'm just trying to understand that perspective and kind of what the thought line is, and what the justification is there. That's all. And then Mixie gets in here where she starts to like differentiate between knowable and like understanding, um, and that's nice. Then we get into belief a little bit here. Jordan starts talking about the difference between belief and proof and knowledge. And this is where things can also start to get really interesting. When we get into this week's discussion, which is, very closely related, one of the things that we've fallen back on a lot, this week I specifically asked, what makes something a fact, which is kind of really close to what is knowledge, right? It's I'm kind of tricking you because like is knowledge of about God knowledge even though the existence of God is not a fact, right? And we get into this idea of like evidence, right? And if you have actual evidence backing it up, and if you have all the receipts and stuff, and everyone kind of falls back on this evidence idea, but like evidence agreed upon. And I have a feeling that if I just type in like what is a fact, I'm guessing it's evidence, something known or proved to be true. So, truth, we talked about the problem with that word last week and the fact that truth becomes really subjective, right? Like, what is your truth? What is my truth? This gets really, really, really tricky really, really quickly whenever we start talking the truth. And then a piece of information used as evidence or as part of a report or news article, and then used in the discovery of something significance. Um, okay, so I think that this kind of dictionary definition, and what you'll find is whenever you're looking at big ideas, right? Big ideas are really poorly defined in things like dictionaries. Dictionaries are just trying to give you the context for the word and how the word might be used as a piece of language, not really capture the idea, right? Like if you asked Google, like, what is moral? What is moral, right? Moral. Concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior and the goodness or badness of like human character, right? If you say what is moral, the dictionary definition is here. Yeah. However, if you go hit up some like videos, right, on what is moral, you're going to end up with like some pretty deep stuff because certain things require more than just simple definitions. So, when you talk about something like a fact and then you get into evidence as the only claim for a fact, well, if I do like a hollow earth theory. All right, so here's the hollow earth. Look at this. This is something that people actually believe in. They believe that, we're all on the outside and that basically there are these gateways and portals on the North and South Pole, and on the inside is this whole other place. And they think this is maybe where Atlantis is from and a bunch of other stuff, right? And they've got hypothesis and they've got all kinds of like evidence that they would give you. Here they're trying to give you like conclave, like mathematical things. Like there's all kinds of stuff that they use to support their belief system. And if your only baseline for what you accept as a fact is evidence, well, then it's really easy to collect evidence on something like the hollow earth, right? Or, Bigfoot. Bigfoot, right? We all know Bigfoot or Sasquatch, right? Look at this. Ooh, evidence, right? Ooh, evidence, right? And so here, I mean, if you get deep into it, man, there are people that do there are like professional researchers, there are formal studies, there are Bigfoot organizations, like there's all kinds of evidence for Bigfoot. Does that make Bigfoot a fact? Um, I don't know. One of the things that I do want to talk about really quick, and then I'm going to let you guys go because you've got videos to make and you've got other assignments that haven't been submitted yet. But I do want to talk about this, right? So this week I said this could be a tricky question. Use some examples in like your answer. When I'm telling you this can be a tricky question, I'm meaning you're probably going to need to explain yourself some here. And this not even a full sentence. This kind of a full sentence. Questionable grammar, but it's not a grammar assignment, so it is what it is. But boom, these replies really kind of not like, yep, I agree, same. Um, Not a bad justification here from Christopher. And Gloria's responses up here are actually pretty solid. But like, if you have evidence, this is 4 words. And I understand that we haven't had time in class yet to really build the rapport necessary to get this in. So I am taking time now to kind of give you a better context for my expectations. So here's my theory of knowledge class for my seniors. All right. Um, we're in the middle of the art section and exploring the art, so on and so forth. And this was our discussion from last week. They actually have about the same number of people in the class as like you do. It's also not a large group of 35, 40 people. It's a relatively small group. And this is what their discussion posts look like. And you can see just by scrolling through here that that these answers and the responses are much more robust. They're much more thoughtful. They're involved. They're actually engaging in a dialogue around the ideas. And what that means is that I also don't have to come in and like poke and prod and poke and prod. Not that I mind doing it. I actually have fun engaging with you guys, but it becomes much less reliant on me. I would love to have a class that's a lot less about listening to me talk and a lot more about listening to you guys talk. This class is about your ideas. I'm old. My brain is slow. My ideas are already pretty well set in. So this is really a class about you guys and your ideas and the development of your thoughts. And so I would like to see that kind of develop. So I understand that it's going to take us time to get here and that they've had a whole year of kind of working on ideas, and we had the benefit of being in a classroom where our class discussions kind of naturally get more engaged and more involved. But I don't ever want you to treat learning or thinking as a series of checklists, because at that point it's useless. It's not accomplishing anything. Um, I always try so hard to avoid busy work. And I'm not going to lie to you, this year that's kind of hard because I'm required to give you guys a certain amount of assignments each week in Schoology. And in doing so, the fidelity and the efficacy of those assignments is not always to the standard that I would normally have in my classroom. But you got to take your own learning seriously. You got to take your own thoughts and your own ideas seriously. This isn't about me. I'm good. I've got all the college degrees that there are to get. There are literally no more degrees that I can get. I have what's called a terminal degree. I'm through school. I got a career. My family's good. My wife is behind me. She's chill. She's great. I'm solid. This is about you and your development and your future and the person that you're going to become. And I want you to invest in that because you're worth investing in. So I would love to see the effort and the complexity of your thoughts maybe over the next couple of weeks. I'm not expecting you to type long giant things right off the bat because I understand that it requires a little bit of stretching and thinking, right? But just spend a bit more time thinking about it. Don't just give me the first knee-jerk response that comes to like your mind, right? If I ask you to give me examples or to support your like claims, take the time to do that because I want to know how your mind works. I want to know how we're coming to these conclusions. All right. For the rest of it, man, you've got these. Where are we at here? Oh wait, this is the wrong course. Sorry. You've got your ways of knowing presentations that need to be posted. A lot of you still need to post in our weekly discussion posts, especially in replies. And then a lot of you still have not done the week 2 stuff. When I get to this, I believe essay, I've still only got 2 people that have submitted. So a lot of you guys are still behind. So take this time to catch up. I'm not adding anything else to your plate outside of the 15 minutes that I've asked you to watch this. Just do your discussion posts, catch up on your work, make it good, spend the time to do it right, make it meaningful, invest in yourself, and with things like the presentation, invest in your classmates because you're effectively teaching them. You are giving them information. The quality of their knowledge and their learning is relying on you. At least with these presentations, right? So make it good. All right. That's it. Have a great one. This will be it for the week. So enjoy your weekend. Take it easy. I uh, I do want to say that on the 25th, the district said that they're going to announce their plans for kind of the upcoming future in regards to if we are or not going back to school, what that's going to look like, what our further plans are going to be. So hopefully by next Tuesday, we'll have some more information. All right, have a good one, guys.